Ilia Topuria didn't just lose his undefeated record to Justin Gaethje, he might have left a piece of his career inside that cage. And here's the thing. The absolute biggest talking point coming out of that history-making UFC White House card isn't even the actual result anymore. It is the damage. It is the horrific amount of punishment Topuria reportedly absorbed inside that octagon. And the one burning question that everybody in the MMA world is suddenly asking right now is, how long is it going to be before we actually see him compete again? Because as the raw post-fight photos started leaking online, the entire combat sports world was absolutely stunned by the extreme physical toll he actually paid during that brutal war. The massive swelling distorting his features, the badly compromised eye, and the terrifying rumors now suggesting multiple facial fractures. All of this triggered massive panic across the entire MMA fanbase. That exact panic hits incredibly hard once you realize the insane winning streak Topuria was riding right before crashing violently into the absolute darkest night of his professional career. Interestingly enough, Joe Rogan has been warning audiences about this exact brutal reality for decades. The core argument he constantly repeats regarding championship-level fighters is that casual audiences obsess solely over their wins and losses, totally ignoring the devastating bodily sacrifices required to trade heavy strikes inside that terrifying octagon. And that contrast is way more critical than most casual fans understand. Look, a fighter can mentally dust themselves off and shake off a loss almost overnight. The ego heals. But repairing the devastating structural damage that stacks up during a complete, 5-round tactical slaughter inside that cage? That is an entirely different beast. That is precisely why the entire community isn't questioning if Topuria ever makes a comeback. They are questioning when. Because if these medical leaks regarding his broken orbital bones are legit, the entire narrative instantly pivots away from potential lightweight contenders and straight toward a medical calendar. Before a single person begins fantasy booking future title shots, grudge matches, or redemption stories, the absolute solo priority has to be letting his skeletal frame structurally fuse back together after enduring one of the most punishing, soul-stealing beatdowns a champion has ever survived. And here is the most captivating aspect of this entire fallout. It has effectively fractured the MMA community into two completely different debates. The first narrative revolves entirely around Justin Gaethje and the sheer tactical genius of his masterpiece performance. Peers and expert pundits are actively praising the cold, calculated manner in which he systematically dismantled one of the most dangerous champions on earth, dragging Topuria into a punishing, deep-water dogfight that grew increasingly hostile with every ticking minute. The second debate zeroes in exclusively on Topuria, and it's not because his stock plummeted or people think he's a fraud. It's because the entire world is fascinated to witness his psychological response. Throughout combat sports history, iconic legends have actually skyrocketed in popularity following a devastating defeat, simply because the audience witnessed them navigate true adversity with absolute dignity. The UFC has literally built its entire empire on these redemptive arcs because they give the fanbase something incredibly raw and human to root for. And that is precisely where Joe Rogan's philosophy hits closest to home. He has constantly emphasized that a mixed martial artist unmasks their true identity only when their world completely falls apart, not when they are effortlessly clearing out divisions and sitting on top of the food chain. Cruising through title defenses builds hype, stacks cash, and generates massive mainstream momentum. But staring into the abyss of a brutal defeat? That is the exact crucible that strips away the persona and exposes a fighter's core spirit. That is exactly why millions of eyes are now glued to every single social media upload, press statement, and interview Topuria drops in the aftermath of this beating. Out of nowhere, his grueling road to redemption might actually turn out to be a far more captivating story than his undefeated rise to the championship ever was. Now, let's establish one absolute fact right here, because it is crucial. Hardly anyone in the game genuinely believes this single defeat magically erases how insanely skilled he is. Virtually nobody thinks this outcome somehow wipes out the historic resume he built before walking inside that cage. What this loss actually shatters is the immediate schedule. Instead of instantly mapping out legacy-defining superfights, stadium shows, or cross-divisional blockbusters, the entire narrative completely pivots toward medical clearance, toward physical rebuilding, and toward figuring out the absolute smartest, most calculated blueprint forward once his body is physically repaired enough to resume training. Seeing Topuria broken at the White House is exactly why the global reaction to his injuries has been so massive. It isn't just that the fanbase was completely horrified by those graphic post-fight pictures. It's that those exact images act as a chilling reality check of how violently unforgiving this sport truly is. A single 25-minute window can completely flip an entire weight class upside down. One lone matchup can totally dismantle multi-million-dollar promotional blueprints. A single performance can force an elite champion to take a massive step backward before he can even look toward the future. So, while Justin Gaethje's historic upset will go down as the absolute biggest headline from that legendary card, the next chapter of Ilia Topuria's career is going to be just as wild to watch unfold. Because right now, the entire MMA community is waiting to see not only when he makes his return, but exactly what version of El Matador steps back through that cage door when he finally makes his walk. If you want to stay ahead of the game on every major UFC update, smash that subscribe button right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Topuria ever fully recovers from this level of facial damage, or has Justin Gaethje permanently altered the trajectory of his career? Let me know what you think.